So when does the rapture occur? Well, there are some people that flippantly say, well, you know, there's pre-trib, there's mid-trib, and there's post-trib. I'm kind of pan-trib because it'll all pan out in the end. Well, that sounds clever and funny, but I want you to think about it for a minute seriously. If the scriptures are telling the truth, and I assure you that they are, the time of the tribulation will be an unparalleled time of the wrath of God poured out upon unrepentant sinners. It'll be a time of the unparalleled wrath of Satan poured out upon any who become believers or tribulation saints during that time. Whether or not we as Christians have to go through the tribulation period or not is surely not a matter of indifference. Because if we are destined to go through the tribulation, I would teach it if I believe the scriptures told us that. But I would teach it with tears in my eyes, because it means that the vast majority of Christians that I know will die in terrible persecution and beheading. It is not a matter of indifference to me. If the Bible clearly does teach that Christ's purpose eternally is to come and take his church home to glory before the tribulation, not because we deserve to escape scot-free, because millions of Christians today die annually around the world in a variety of countries under terrible persecution in concentration camps in China and in many Islamic nations where there is persecution, in many communist nations, North Korea, Cuba, as well as mainland China. The Lord Jesus Christ is going to come. And the purpose of the resurrection rapture is not so that we should escape persecution, because it's entirely possible that though we North Americans have been very fortunate to escape violent persecution, when our brothers in the third world have often not, the purpose of the rapture taking place before the tribulation is something different. You see, you can't enjoy the marriage supper unless you have a body. You can't enter heaven unless you have a body. And so in order that you might be fit for eternity, you need to have the rapture occur. The purpose of the rapture is the translation of your mortal, incorruptible body, the mortal, corruptible body that we have today that's subject to death, disease, accident, into a body that is fit for eternity. And when that takes place, that is what is called the rapture. Those passages that deal with what we call the revelation, when Christ comes to the earth at Armageddon with his church, is an entirely different event at an entirely different time with an entirely different purpose. The purpose of the rapture is the translation of the saints, living and dead, into a heavenly body fit for eternity. The purpose of the revelation is that we might return to this earth with Jesus, where he will set up his throne as the Messiah King on the throne of David in Jerusalem, to rule this earth, not only for the 1,000-year millennium, but that's only chapter 1, but for eternity thereafter on the new earth without sin. The revelation's purpose is to establish the righteousness of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, throughout the world. When the resurrection takes place, the rapture, the purpose is to translate our body into a new one. When we look at the passages that deal with the revelation at Armageddon, one, it's at least 7 years later, at the very end of the tribulation period. It takes place at the time of the Battle of Armageddon. Its purpose is not to translate the bodies, but to remove those who are righteous, the tribulation saints that have followed God, Jew and Gentile, from physical death at the wrath of God and the wrath of Satan. That's why in Revelation 25 we see the angels gathering the elect from the four corners of the world. Now, if they were being translated into an immortal body that could not die, why would there be a need to gather them? It is to remove the physical, living saints of the tribulation, Jew and Gentile, from the danger of physical annihilation at the wrath of God and the separate wrath of Satan, which God would allow to take place during that time. Two different purposes, two different times. And we have to keep that in mind, or we will misunderstand why God causes the rapture, resurrection, to take place first.